Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Costumeco channel. And with me today, I have the costume designer of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Her name is Lorna Ó Ríordáin. And I was practicing a little bit before we started, Lorna, with your name. So hopefully I got it correct.
It's
Uh,
perfect.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We've been doing a little bit of back and forth, and I'm just so delighted to have you on. I'm a massive fan of this show. I mean, I'm so happy the success that it's done, and I know that you are working on season two, so that's super exciting.
Yeah.
As well, I did read the books, so it's sort of fun to be able to look at the books and then also the show. But before we get started, because this is my first time meeting you, I was wondering if you would mind telling me a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into costume design and your interest in costumes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm delighted to be here. I love this show so much. Love talking about it. How I got in, and lovely to meet you too, Heidi. How I got into it, I guess, I from childhood just loved drawing and painting, and it was kind of given that I was going to go to art college. From I was 7 years old, that's what I wanted to do. And but like where I came here, it was just by chance that I went to an art college in London that had theatre design as an option at Wimbledon Art School, which was great. And then it was like, wow, this is, it's maybe I had thought I would end up doing some kind of design like textiles or fashion. But then when I saw this, I thought, well, this is actually really way more interesting to me. And so that's what I did. And I worked quite a bit. And I did set and costume. That's what I studied. So it could have gone either way. But I think opportunity just, having done both in theatre a bit, opportunity just came up in costume. And that's the route I went. And yeah, so I was kind of doing it kind of straight out of college. Well, maybe a year or two out of college, a TV opportunity came up, and I kind of went in one as a trainee, and then I started designing small films because the film industry in Ireland was just starting to blossom in the mid to late 90s. So I was in Dublin, and I got opportunity really fast because there was a hunger for new film and young filmmakers. So yeah, it kind of, then there was no going back. I just loved it.
Well, my background is in theater as well. And just from some of my interviews with designers, that's how many of them have come into. They were like, I didn't even know this is something I could do coming out of theater. So wonderful to share that story with us. I really appreciate it. So now about the show, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms on HBO. All episodes are out if anyone's watching. I wanted to know before you started, and maybe this is a crazy question, but were you familiar with Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or the books at all?
So I was familiar, but I wasn't an avid watcher. I think maybe a lot of costume designers would say that, that you just don't have time to watch shows, or you don't, you just, or things are, you switch off and you read a book, or, something. So I wasn't, I was aware of it, and I was aware of like the craft of it and how like phenomenal it was. But no, it wasn't. I wasn't a watcher of either show. And funnily enough, when I came to do an interview, and I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't know the whole thing, but I was honest about it. And Ira said, "No, that's good. That's good. That's kind of what we want," because he didn't want somebody doing the same, I guess, or bringing the same thing to it, or just from a different point of view. So yeah, I had to, obviously I'm now familiar with them. But I had to come at it from a completely different perspective. And these books are different. These characters are different. So yeah, that was how familiar I was starting.
Yeah, that's kind of like, there's some people who watch these shows, but they don't read the books, or some people who read the
Yeah.
books and watch the shows. So there's all kinds of
Mhm.
different audiences that I'm sure you're working with. But so I wanted to know, so aside from the scripts, which, are amazing, did you decide though to read the books just to sort of
Oh, yeah.
flesh that a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. No, I read the books straight away. I think before the interview, I read the books to make sure because that's where I would start anyway. In any research, if there's a book, yeah, try and, to to have something bigger than the script, although the script is your focus. But generally on TV, scripts change a lot. They change as they're being written, they change as they're being shot. So you're always better to have the bigger picture in your head. Yeah, and so the book was very important.
Now, the one question I knew I was going to ask you, I had to ask you. This is like what I was so excited to talk to you about. What were your early chats like with Ira? And did you also include George Martin in those conversations as well? And if so, what were they like?
So I obviously my direct contact was Ira. He was our showrunner, our writer. But he was in contact with George. So apart from George coming to visit set, like there's no direct. I think everything comes through Ira from George. That's the way it should be as well. So you're working with one voice, taking direction from one, so whatever comes through. So I think in their relationship, it was very important. Obviously, these characters are very beloved to George, Duncan Egg. So Ira was very conscious of keeping them as close to the original material as possible, and very sensitive to all that. And so I had to be very sensitive to all that in how I designed their costumes. Much as you would probably, your instinct would want to be a bit more elaborate in both, but I think I had to respect the book and George's image of, the way they're written, I think is how we tried to design them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, by the way, after I finished watching the show, I learned that Ira is actually from St. Catharines, Ontario, which is just 2 hours away from where I am. So I was like so delighted to learn he's Canadian. It was sort of crazy, actually. So that he might have a slightly different perspective on things being a Canadian. I don't know if you found that, being someone from Ireland, if you had a slightly...
Absolutely. Yeah.
His humor, for sure. There is some definite humor bits in the show that lean toward the Canadian sense of humor.
A very dry sense of humor. Very funny. Yeah.
Now, I don't think this is true, but I did want to just check in with you. Did you at any time contact any of the previous costume designers from any of the other properties, like Jenny Tamim or Michelle Clapton, who did the original series?
No, not at all. I think these shows are all very separate. Nobody would expect to be, giving information to follow up or to you must do it like this, or nobody would do that. I mean, I'd love to have chats with them. I think they're amazing designers, but I think there wasn't any need. We were doing a completely different thing in a different era. There wasn't a requirement that we should.
I always wonder how it works in the costume design community if you're checking in with each other. But I mean, I suppose, Jenny's from France and Michelle's I think she's from England. So you're all in different parts of the world. So you're doing your own thing, I guess.
Yeah, and I think costume designers rarely get to bump into costume designers. you might
except for the awards.
If you're lucky at the awards, but you meet their assistants a lot, or you work with them and you kind of get to know them through, other people, but you rarely meet them unless you go to college with them, which I went to college with. Would I meet again?
Now, just getting into the specifics of the show, one of the first things I noticed, even before I watched the show, is from the stills, is the Hand of the King pin, which you sort of, that was one thing that you sort of carried through. Yeah. So aside from that, were there any other like Easter eggs or visual nods to the original series that you did include in your design?
I mean, we definitely shared a costume, the Silent Sisters that came.
Oh, okay.
So that was a costume that they quite wanted to be a repeat They used it in House of Dragon and, came from Game of Thrones. So we used that. And
did you rebuild it though, or did they loan it to you, or how did that all come down?
I think they loaned it to us, and we might have. Yeah, I think it was the actual costume, but that was the only overlap that I know of. And the hand, and we made our own design for the Hand of the King.
Yes, because that is something that I have tracked just from reviewing all the shows. Is that every king has their own sort of interpretation, or queen. There are a few queens as well. So now. I was going to ask you, some of, fans were really delighted, by the way, with the interpretation. I may, may be important to you, may not be important to you, but many times it seemed to the leap off the pages of the Hedge Knight. So how did you balance staying true to the source material, like the look of the Kingsguard, for instance, while also giving that lived in Westeros feel? Like it still feels like you're in that world of Westeros, right? That we've come to know from the other two shows. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kingsguard that evolved from, yeah, the description in the book and Ira wanting them to be white and maybe wanting them to be not like the previous ones that we've seen. And also, I think I'd walked around museums and I saw this lovely bone, this white. There's some beautiful pearl and bone on armor, on maybe weapons, and that we thought we'd introduce that into their armor. So it felt like we were doing something, yeah, a bit different, and then trying to make it look not fragile. There were a lot of challenges with that. Yeah, so I think there was a lot of, there was creativity within what you think may have been, oh, that's just from the book. There was a lot of challenges to find that look. And balancing, yeah, I suppose Dunk in his battle armor. I mean, that was something that they were quite certain that they wanted him to be simple, just as it's described. No, nothing. Yeah, so really simple, like it does the job. It's made by a very simple blacksmith and no flourishes, no detail, in quite a contrast to the Targaryens. So, and that is from, it's pretty much an image from the graphic novel.
Yeah.
So it was something that Ira wanted really strongly to it to be as close to that as possible.
Yeah, I was watching a behind the scenes where you were interviewed, and I know that you indicated that. But the one thing that I did find really surprising is that you went with an actual, I think it was steel mail that he wears, which I was like, I can't even imagine how heavy that would be.
I'll tell you exactly how heavy that was.
Oh, good. We're gonna get a little.
It was 40
fun
because
fact.
I had somebody weigh it. My sister weighed it, so it's 14.37 kilograms.
Okay, so I'll have to translate that into pounds for our US audience. And how did I now? But it is distributed across the body, right? So for Peter, the actor playing Dunk, like how did he find that weight?
Well, he's a big guy. He didn't mind. It felt, yeah. Well, maybe he did. He's a great sport anyway. He wore it, and he wore it a lot, and he wore it rolling in the mud, and he didn't complain, but it can't have been pleasant, because there's padded gambeson as well, and there's a lot to it. It's quite restrictive. But
yeah, I have a picture of it here somewhere. I'll bring it up when I can find it. And then, so speaking of armor, so let me hide that now. You work closely with Simon Brindle. Hopefully I'm getting his name correct. Who I tracked as having worked on. He's basically worked on everything.
Yeah.
So, what was that collaboration like for you? First of all, had you made armor before? Was this something you'd done before?
I had never done armor before. It was actually terrifying to start with. I was thinking, oh my gosh, because obviously it's the first thing you have to start in the process because it takes so long to build. So I'd never done originated armor. That I, went from concept to build. So Simon was, absolutely brilliant. Helped that. He just said, well, like, just treat it like a costume. Give me your drawings the way you would draw any costume, and we'll work on that and how, the entire. So I learned a lot actually in that process, and having to then work out with him. Well, that looks great, but how does it open? And then, working out different things, and then the weight of some of the stuff that I was designing. Simon was like, well, nobody's going to want to wear that, it's so heavy. So we'd reduce things, and so yeah, it was, he was an amazing support, and he's a sculptor himself, so he has a great eye for the visual.
By the here I have another picture of Dunk. I don't know if this is just like you were doing some test pictures here. So I'd grabbed this from HBO.
Yeah, their
And a
publicity.
lot of you did a lot of distressing on his costume, I gather, as well.
Yeah.
Just looking at his tabard there.
Yeah. We had a brilliant distressing breakdown department. Yeah, so that it was a velvet, and yeah.
Oh, it's velvet. Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, it's quite a heavy velvet because it absorbed a lot as it went on. It absorbed the mud, but yeah, no, that in itself had weight. Never mind the rest of it.
Now, my next question is, out of all of the armor in the show, do you have a personal favorite? I know it's hard to choose, your children.
I know.
But is there one in particular that you were so happy with how it turned out?
I have a soft spot for Arians. Yeah, because I suppose that was the first, that was the most challenging to do. And it started, it was my first thing to start with. And, from the painting of the brush strokes that we were able to do, literally, that same shape on the helmet that went through so many different iterations till we finally got the face. I started off, I think it was just the process that I learned so much on, the process and drawing dragons on the head. And then I myself look at it and think, no, it's not really scary. It's just another dragon. And, and then somewhere on my mood boards, there was an image, a really old mask, but it was a human face. That kind of captured Ira's imagination. He said, yeah, I mean, isn't that much scarier than a dragon? So we then thought, well, actually, yeah, the guy's so vain. Would we not just, make it look like him? And then it happened, his face was cast and we made the mask, and then working out how it would work. And I suppose with that armor we wanted, because he is Arian Brightflame, to have, little aspects of red seeping out from underneath. So his gambeson was red velvet, his cloak was kind of this molten lava, and yeah, the flames on his head. So yeah, I had a soft spot for that just because of the process. I think it was the challenge.
Yeah, and then you've got the spikes. It kind of gives it that sort of bit of a gladiator sort of feel to it.
The way I came from that was punk. I had a lot of images.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, so that was, I literally pictures of punks on the mood board, and then I tried to make aspects of all of that. And so he wore the chainmail as just a shirt, as a t-shirt.
Actually, I even commented on that in one of my videos because I was thinking about him having that chainmail shirt against his skin. I'm sure you had a shirt underneath it, but I was laughing thinking about all the hairs that would get snagged.
Oh, he loved it. It was.
That's so Arian.
Yeah, but it was all of that. And you can see the details then on his belt, all that punk thing went right through, but, without being too much, I think. It just created a bit of anarchy. Like he doesn't want to fit in with the family. He doesn't care.
I love that Arian's an anarchist. That's really awesome. Yeah. Okay, so now we're on the Targaryens. Speaking of the Targaryens, so were there any, not just their armor, you were mentioning punks, but also just their clothing in general? Were there any particular cultural influences that you used to influence their design?
Yeah, well, I thought let's take it back to where are these people from? They're from some hot land. Volcanic was a thing that I thought, well, maybe, yeah, the dragons are born in some kind of, volcanic surface. So I used that reference of the texture, I think you're looking at Baylor there. So he has...
By the way, his is my favorite costume of
the
season.
Too.
Absolutely love it.
I loved it too.
Yeah, so actually that's interesting because I know there's been discussion about the dragon glass being kind of like obsidian, right? So that sort of makes sense to me. That would be volcanic. So you've sort of used that sort of texture in his outfit here.
Yeah, and if you could see it even more clearly there, he's got these checkered squares, and that was, the textile department did wonderful explorations of making it look volcanic, like it's got this printed, like it's foiled, it's printed over velvet and then broken up. So yeah, it just has a feel of something rocky and yeah, slippery. there's elements,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then within that, there's lots of dragon surface textures. He's got several different textures in there, and then he has a sash that is kind of given him that nobility.
I think I have him
Like
standing here. This might be a different costume, though. I'm not sure.
no, it's the same one. It's the same
Okay.
one,
Yeah.
just from different angles. Yeah. So he's almost emperor-like, and it's like an obi sash with.
Mm-hmm.
And what you probably can't see there because it's a bit dark, within the red pleats at the side, there's a slash of purple, which, was our secret little, death warning.
Yes.
Anybody with the purple comes a cropper. So
I love that.
And then on his hand of the king, so all these fastenings, that was something
Yes.
that I wanted to make those look like they came from a rocky climb. So they're all very handcrafted. That was all the fastenings on the principles. We did some kind of handcraft. That I thought, well, why would they not be? They'd be beautiful like jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
So they would all be unique to that. So each Targaryen has their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at Maker there. He's got his own.
And they're very, by the way, I feel like and I don't want to gender things here, but it does have sort of a more masculine, like it's an ornamentation, but it's very masculine, weighty. Yeah. I just absolutely loved it. That was like the first thing I zoned in on when I first saw your designs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought they made them unique, each of them. Like it was important to have individuality within the detail.
Yeah, no. So I know you have an enormous amount of craftspeople who had helped you out with these fasteners, and then also you were mentioning some of the techniques that you use. So there, like for instance, I don't know if I have a picture of it. I think it's Darren, where it looks like some things are self-screened, or you've done like a kind of a texture on texture sort of thing. So can you tell me a little bit about that? I'll see if I can find the picture here of him. Maybe it's here. Here it is.
Oh yeah, so that was fun to do, and again, very darkly lit in.
I know, so we've brightened it up. We've brightened it up here.
No, I kind of want to please stand up and let them see your lovely costume. But yeah, so there was Devore velvet on the garment underneath, and then that's like a print, a foil print that's kind of picked away on the top layer, and let's see.
And did you did you design a lot of these motifs, and then do they have sort of a bit of a dragon, or like maybe this, for instance, is that supposed to be flames? Like what sort of like?
So for Darren, actually, I thought, well, he's definitely the more romantic of them and the poet, but also there's a bit of decay in there. So the surface of the velvet was kind of almost like something bleeding into like veined cheese or wine or barrels. There's imagery from all. So there was a lot of layers, and decay, I would say, would be the word. In the texture that we played with, and then that echoed into the armor, so you can see, the way it's almost like a barrel, a wine barrel. Also, that kind of it echoes what is on the velvet costume that he.
Oh, okay.
The pattern, because we gave them their own, each character their own pattern throughout, so you can see it maybe on their cloaks or on their dress somewhere. But and that was kind of like a red wine, and little bits of thing. It was very heavy. I remember Henry thought it was very heavy, but he only had to sit on the horse. So
because he ends up in the mud, I think.
Yeah, and the lower layer is quite a long skirt of armor as well.
And I don't have a picture of it. I know he is wearing a helm with the green plume, which I believe is a nod to the books. Is that correct? Ira mentioned that.
Yeah, so there's a little dragon on his helm with a green silk ribbon, I think I remember. Yeah, which was also much more delicate and a little more feminine than the rest of the aggressive Targaryen helmets.
It was funny when we were doing our live stream, we were sort of talking about Darren and that if he was like living in our time, he probably would be treated maybe for PTSD because he's had these dragon dreams and he's so like he has no way of coping except to drink. So I
Yeah.
actually kind of came to really love him as a character.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely the softest and most harmless.
Now, my favorite character, I don't know if you have a favorite character. It's hard to choose your children, is Lionel Baratheon, who, I mean, Daniel Ings, I love him. He's wonderful in I think it's The Gentleman.
Yeah.
So anyway, so one of the things I didn't notice until I watched the show is that he, he's obviously very regal and he has this, wonderful helm and everything that he's wearing, but he feels a bit like a whirling dervish when he's dancing. Was this like something like the sort of the ribbons that you put on his doublet, or I'm not sure what you would call it.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about his outfit that he's wearing?
Well, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. The most prominent thing was he was going to dance. So, he's Daniel himself has so much energy, but the character definitely needed to feel like he could jump around. And so the skirt, it's actually a skirt. It's he's wearing a waistcoat and a skirt with a very like a cummerbund on top of it. Yeah, so the skirt had lots of panels that were cut in a way that they would swing and move as he danced and leapt around. And yeah, there's something a bit. I think these culottes underneath. They were like wide-legged pants, so there's something a bit kind of. And that was definitely from an image I'd seen, like a Russian czar, something. Yeah. Sometimes you can't remember where these images come from, but definitely the skirt was something that I thought had to move.
I love that. Yeah, and of course his armor is. Daniel was saying that his, the helm he wore was so heavy, which is right behind him there. You've got again, and then his gambeson. I think is it velvet as well.
It's velvet, yeah. So we tried to, put people into their house colors. So all these gambesons were dyed, the house colors, and whatever. Some of them are printed. Some of them, the armor is printed. Yeah.
And then it looks like instead of in his case, it looks like is it hand painted on his cuirass where you have the horns, or
it's actually it's maybe stenciled. Yeah.
A stencil, okay. Yeah. So by the way, this is one of the Fosways. This is like definitely a fan favorite. The beautiful, like he doesn't deserve armor as nice as this because he's such a nasty character, but just absolutely gorgeous. That beautiful apple embossed on there. So I can't even imagine how much work would go into this.
Yeah. So that was a bit of fun. We got them sculpted onto the armor, and I think obviously Edward is not a nasty character. He carried it very well.
Yes.
And then he had another armor, which was his training armor, the velvet, it was leather with the large apple that gets really
there it is there.
Yeah, you have it as well. So that was a lot of fun. And again, we kept the Fosways within house colors so that, there's so many different houses on the show and so many different armors. So I suppose the simplest logic was to just, colors that you can associate with people and try and separate colors so that you can recognize people. So to pare it down to maybe 3 colors per person or.
Yeah. Oh, actually, this is one of my favorite ones of the armors at the 7, the trial, because I love how you kind of went completely away from any kind of plate and went with some like a bit of plate, mixed with mail, and how you have his eye is covered with mail, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah, it was to keep it simple, and that I think came from an image, a medieval, I think Renaissance. Or something that was actually not armor at all, that just had this beautiful evocative, like he's supposed to be lithe and moves, so we wanted everything to fit close to his body, that his mail would seem just purposeful and yeah, then if he was going to have anything on his eye, it would just be the chainmail for the most part.
Absolutely. Now, I
Yeah.
don't want to, before I let you go, I want to just at least touch on Tanzel, because she's sort of our, one of our female leads. There's not very many women in this
Hmm.
show, because it's sort of a male centric show. But did you want to tell me a little bit about her? Now, I mentioned to you in my comment that when I first saw this, I immediately thought of Mario Fartuni, just with the pleating and
Yeah.
everything. Was there
Mhm.
any, was there any like historical or fashion influences that you looked at when you came up with
Well,
this design?
yeah. Well, you were absolutely right. Fortuny was a major influence. But I suppose the way I approached Tanzel is that she was always dressing up. She was, playing a
Hmm.
character in each of the things. So it's you're not really sure, are these her clothes, or are they costume clothes? And she plays Jonquil, which is the lady in the white. She's like a daffodil,
Hmm.
and then
I have that here.
think some of her. Then she's playing Serwyn, which with the shield, and so I saw some of her things as being like she's wearing those pants off duty, and she might have. So we're never really sure, like what this is how they live.
Yeah,
um,
so she's sort of in and out of both the real world and her sort of
yeah, I think so.
theatrical
So
world.
so I wasn't really tied to a particular place or era for that. And I think I
Hmm.
took inspiration from Persian art, from old Chinese, there was lots of different things. And Moorish, obviously the Dornish people are from this southerly place. So, I think, yeah, it's a little bit of Moorish influence, but all
Yeah,
that becomes.
a lot of my viewers love this particular look. Like she wears those pantaloons, but the fabric is beautiful. Is it kind of like is there a bit of a velvet on it, or what kind of fabric
It's
is that?
embroidery. It's an
Oh, it's
embroidered.
embroidered.
Yeah.
Oh, just gorgeous.
Mm.
By the way, the fabrics in the show, I just are stunning. Like I know I can't even imagine sourcing all of that, but it sounds like when you even then when you did get a fabric, you still did something to it. Like you still.
I think, yeah, I mean, that's my passion is fabric and
Mhm.
texture. And I work with the most amazing textile department that can transform a fabric and give it a whole new meaning and a whole new look. So I think that was something that we really enjoyed playing with, that became quite important. Um,
I was just going to tell you, I realized looking at my questions, I didn't have anything about poor little Egg.
oh, egg.
So do you want to just touch on him a little bit? I know he has quite a few costumes, but he's sort of in disguise here, right? So
Yeah.
did you um, did you want to tell me about it? I did see, I think on Instagram that you did have to sort of keep in mind that he would be growing and all that, and so there were some challenges there for that. But did you want to tell me a little bit about his looks?
Yeah, well, I suppose that the key is that these aren't really his clothes.
Hmm.
Nobody gave them to him. He found them, he stole them, he whatever. So they shouldn't really, fit him. And he needs to disappear. He needs to blend in. He's obviously wearing a hood to try and hide. Um, and again, beside Dunk, we wanted them to just like almost mute into the background in most of it until we know who he is and all
Yeah.
that. So yeah, choosing a color that it kind of looks earthy but not not too striking, and not because everything in Ashford was so vibrant,
Hmm.
bold, that I think it was important that he disappeared.
And then, of course, this is what his like
So that, yeah,
his
so he had
royal look.
this royal look. So he actually, he only had maybe two costumes, that and the funeral one, and then there's layers within it. When he's with the 7 and 7, he takes off the jacket, so he just has a shirt. But yeah, so he definitely they're the costumes that his father had in the in the luggage in the caravan.
Hmm.
So they obviously are kind of match his father's colors and textures.
Yeah,
What do you
one of my colleagues, she was saying that she thought there was a bit of a Russian look there. You have a lot of like sort of asymmetry with, the buttons are off to the side. So did you use sort of a bit of a Romanov influence on that?
It was, I think it was just something I particularly liked. I thought I want to move away from down the center, normal little closures, kind of take things. So yeah, I definitely looked at ancient Persian dress and kimonos and things wrapping. And I love that for the Targaryens. And a few, I think, yeah, kind of kept that a theme. So between that and maybe making everything long. So a lot of our men's garments are very long, that it felt kind of regal. And yeah, it was kind of maybe a pushback to how do we make this different? And of course, this isn't a time of war, and I think it's always interesting in history when, in times of war, hemlines go up. So when there's less fabric, there's a time for they're at a tourney. It's like there's obviously money around luxury. So people are wearing plenty of fabric and being quite elaborate with it, and hem lengths are long, and yeah, it felt that was important.
Absolutely. And I do like also how, like, so for instance, with Egg, how you sort of like, you have a nice little through line with all of the Targaryens where you've used that sort of red print fabric there, either in a sash or in a little tuck pleat of some kind in all of the costumes, like I noticed. And also, I wanted to ask you about Egg's little hat that he wore at one point. Someone suggested that his dad was like, "No, put that on. I don't like your bald head." So what was the conversation like around deciding to put Egg in a little hat?
I think, yeah, it was that it came from, yeah, like his dad would definitely make him cover up that head, and I'm not sure did Dexter even like wearing it, because it was probably quite uncomfortable with the hair starting to
But it
grow.
worked though, because it looked like he was uncomfortable, that he didn't like it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of it sort of worked, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, though, I just want to ask a little bit about your team, because I gather you shot in Ireland. Is that correct? For most of the series,
in Northern Ireland, actually. Yeah,
in Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
it was in the same studio that Game of Thrones would have.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to know then, did you have a crew that you work with normally, or did you have to pull together a new crew, and how did that all work out?
I didn't really know any of them to start with. I used a local team, but I brought in. I mean, not everybody was there. I mean, I think a lot of people were from the original Game of Thrones that had come up through that, but they were now out in the world doing great things elsewhere. So we brought some people back, like the textile people, and then I brought in assistant designers, and I brought in 2 chief tailors. Yeah, I mean, but other than that, everybody was local. When I say brought in from Southern Ireland or from Scotland, not too far. Yeah.
By the way, Lady Gwen, I wanted to just shout out her little outfit here. Was absolutely stunning, and because I didn't mention embroidery, did you have embroidery artists as well? Who helped?
Yes, I mean the very skilled workroom do the embroidery. Yeah, so that was based on a Klimt painting.
Oh my gosh! Yes, of course, that makes sense.
And then, we did a print, and again, there's maybe a bit of Devore there on the velvet.
Yep. But of course, and you've incorporated the Ashford sigil, I believe, into her.
Yes,
as well.
So there's an echo there to what you see on the boards and on their textile.
Yeah, because there's so few women in this, we don't have a lot of beautiful dresses to drool over, right? Except I wanted to also shout out just some of the, I'm calling them, you can tell me what you call them. I call them sex workers. We had some discussion about this.
We call them courtesans.
Courtesans. Okay. So for the courtesans as well, it has some really fun sort of like, I love the draping and just some interesting, almost like they were like, okay, I have this. What could I do with this? Kind of idea.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think they're at this festival. Is that how they dress in their day? They've really, gone for it, and they're trying to stand out and wear as little as possible, but as much bling as they could.
Yeah, absolutely. The
Yeah.
jewelry, did you were you able to use any local like jewelry makers or artisans to help with like say things like jewelry or footwear or that type of thing?
We have. I have to say, probably we have had more time to do that in season two. So we've absolutely brilliant jeweler on season two, and yeah, we did a little bit on season one, but I think time was probably against us there. That was armor, armor, armor,
Yeah, absolutely. So
and not even, yeah,
you'll be able to explore this world a little bit more coming in season two,
definitely.
which brings me close to the end of our interview. But I just want to ask. So I know you are working on season two. Are you allowed? I know you can't tell me anything about the shooting of it or
Mm.
anything, but can you tell me like where you are on the schedule, like when you plan on being completed?
Um, oh, we're probably about halfway.
Okay.
Let's say so. We've quite a bit to do. Yeah, I mean it's the same but different.
Mm.
There's new characters. It's again true to the book and also
And
more.
are we doing book two though?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
all.
great. Okay. Now I've heard though that there could be as many as 10 seasons because George has a bunch of stories. So we'll have to
You
get to
know,
those before Dexter gets too big.
yeah, it's a lot of writing to do very fast. Yeah.
Well, Lorna, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This has been so wonderful. And I'm so excited about season two coming out, which I think maybe will be 2027. I don't think they've made a formal announcement. But the fact that you're shooting now is a very good sign because the issue
Yeah.
that I think a lot of people have been having with streaming shows lately is they'll wait, like, and then they won't get to the next show until, and then we have to wait a couple of years. So it would be
Yeah.
wonderful if we don't have to wait too long to see our favorite characters again.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I know you have a roast in the oven. So I'm going to let you go. But do you want to tell, is there anything else you're working on before I let you go, though, aside from this
And
show?
aside from this show, no, there's just no time. I'm working on this show, but it's so much fun, and yeah, I mean, I've loved it, and I love talking to you about it. This is so much fun. Yeah, just reliving the fun of last year.
Well, I hope that you can like I hope that you can like now I know you're working, but I hope you can at least now enjoy it, you know. And did you do a watch party when with the season? Or like did you get together with friends or how did you watch the season?
I went to the premiere and watched the first two. That was the first time I'd seen the first two episodes. And then we've had a few screenings, and then I watched it just on my own, which I kind of
Mhm.
like to do, not with other people.
From the quiet of your home.
From the quiet of your home, just to get a sense of it. But you know, it is nice to watch it as an audience. Just you know, not have anybody comment on, you know, just see it. And I do. I think I can switch off and watch it like an audience member and not really notice the costumes.
Wonderful. It's
Yeah,
kind of like chefs who go out to eat. I always compare that, like going out to eat a dinner when you're a chef. It's good to be able to just sort of disconnect from it and just be able to enjoy it for what it is, sort of thing.
yeah,
But
definitely.
also to to see all of the wonderful work that you and your team have put into it. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope I can get you back next year when the new season is out, if it's out next year, to talk about season two.
Definitely. Would love to.
Oh, I love to as
All
well.
right.
Okay, well, and I
Thanks,
want to
Heidi.
thank everyone for for being here. And also Lorna is on social media. You're on Instagram. So if you
I,
want to go over there and follow her,
I'm,
you are
I'm
on
not
Instagram.
I'm not great at posting much on Instagram, but
Oh, you're too
yeah,
busy.
yeah.
So anyway, everyone have a wonderful day and we'll see you soon. Take care now.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lorna.